Today I'm going to talk about temporary basal rates for long rides specifically. If you are not familiar with the concept of a temporary basal rate, i.e. if you're not diabetic, if you're on a pump, the pump is always giving you a background rate of your rapid fast-acting insulin to kind of mimic what you would get if you were doing injections with a slow-acting long-term insulin. And you have rates that are kind of preset based on the time of day. So if you're, say, more insulin resistant in the morning, like most of us are, you probably, once you wake up, have a higher basal rate than when you were sleeping during the night. And it's all very personal, depends what makes sense for your body. But when you exercise, especially if you're doing something like cardio, you start really metabolizing. I don't know, not a biologist, but all of that insulin on board starts to become really active. And so, with something like riding or hiking or running, you probably need a lower basal rate than you would normally if you were just living your everyday life. And I use the Omnipod. I don't have the latest version of it, but on the Omnipod, it's really easy to set a temporary basal rate of either a percentage increase or a percentage decrease for some set amount of time, and super easy. When I am doing shorter rides, I will usually decrease my background rate while I'm riding, kind of depending what my sugars are like coming into it. But for longer rides, like if I'm riding 4, 5+ hours in a day, I've actually come to the realization that what works best for me is to leave my basal rate where it's at, to actually not decrease it at all. This is because to do that much riding, I have to be consuming calories and fuel, whether that's gummies or gels or whatever is available to me. Instead of decreasing my basal rate so that I can prevent going low when I'm riding, but then needing to dose for some of these snacks so that I don't just absolutely shoot up, but then having to deal with that increased insulin on board from dosing, that becomes a nightmare that you cannot untangle. So instead, I leave my basal rate where it's at. I will make sure I'm starting the ride, above 120. And then I can basically eat whatever I want during the ride for fuel. And my sugars will stay pretty good because I'm just constantly using up that sugar that I'm eating. I'm not getting huge spikes because I have some, higher amount of insulin on board, but I'm not having to give myself huge boluses for what I eat and then figure out how to deal with this, couple of units of insulin and how that's going to act with continued riding and everything. One thing to note, if you do try to do this method, is that you should probably give yourself a little bit of extra insulin, increase your basal rate, or give yourself maybe a unit or something like that when your ride is going to be ending soon. Because for me personally, I do tend to get a bit of a rebound high after doing cardio once my body settles down. Might not happen for you. That's what my body does. Again, diabetes is weird, and it's all about figuring out what works for you. This is what works for me for really long rides. Hope it helps.